Brea, we are coaches, and so one of the things we coach on is OKRs, which is objective key results. It is something that Google uses to get all the signature home runs that they've done on their business. And a lot of companies are using that as a goal setting framework. And so I actually want you to introduce that to our audience, what OKRs are, how businesses are using that, and how we could even use that in an annual review setting.
Yeah. OKRs have really increased in popularity. So, and we coach on this a lot, Renee. I mean, you're an expert too, as is Ashley and a bunch of members of our team. And so, and whether you use OKRs or not, a strategic planning tool is something you may consider. And I love applying it to both personal and professional, and both as an individual contributor and a business leader. So for those that don't know, OKRs stands for Objectives and Key Results. It was founded in the 70s, deep at Intel, and has been adopted by a lot of tech businesses. You see many startups using it. I was first introduced to it at a startup, the one that laid me off, but I took the OKR tooling with me. And now we're seeing it applied across enterprises, and of course across small businesses. And what OKRs do is they really clarify what the main objective is for a particular initiative, and then you limit the key results, which are really the outcomes that you want to measure, and you only list 2 or 3. And so it gives you this really beautiful, succinct set of things that the organization is going to rally behind. This is not a huge list of things that, will show up throughout the year. If new things show up, the beauty with OKRs is you use them for capacity boundaries and you say, great, what's got to give? And so it's a really wonderful tool, especially when for organizations who are challenged with clarity or transparency challenges, because OKRs are shared. So everyone gets to see what OKRs look like, what people have committed to, and so they can understand how their work accrues to another business unit's work, or how their individual contributor work accrues to their leadership team. So it's really a wonderful tool that works for both breadth and depth across an organization. And so, there's plenty of ways that you can do this. It can be a free exercise that people do. You can simply Google OKRs. We've got templates we can provide that make it really easy for people to set OKRs. And then measuring them becomes a really fun exercise, fun if you're into that sort of thing, like I am. And oftentimes we see them instead of a monthly business review or a quarterly business review, you're doing OKR updates with some narrative. You're starting to talk about your impacts in a little bit of a storytelling way. So that's what I see from OKRs, and that's been really on fire lately, especially as people have really, to your point, been focused on boundary setting.
Mm-hmm.
OKRs is a beautiful tool for that. So how are you seeing that show up for individuals, Renee?
Yeah, so when I talked about the personal branding, that can show up in your resume. It can show up in your annual review. It can show up in a bunch of different ways. Even when you're talking to a manager about who you are, kind of introducing yourself. Now, OKRs, I love that you can take this like massive organizational goal setting process and actually use it on an individual level. And so when I'm coaching individuals, and for example, when they're looking at their resume, they don't have to write this long, lengthy, descriptive way of describing what they're doing. You really can be more impact oriented. So as opposed to saying something like, I created and launched a playbook, a sales playbook. What is the outcome of that playbook? Many times people will talk about outputs, now outcomes, and there's a difference. And so when you start switching the way you talk about things, like, oh, I'm a marketer with 15 plus years of marketing. How about winning the hearts and minds of partners through award-winning marketing campaigns, right? Like when you start switching the wording on that and it becomes truly impact oriented, it starts illuminating your cover letter, your resume, your review, the way you write your annual review. It's going to be just a lot more power packed than just saying it in a way that's very tactical, which can come across as more junior. It elevates it because you start asking yourself, the sales playbook or the marketing campaign is a means to an end. But what's the end? What am I trying to drive? Am I trying to drive adoption? Am I trying to drive revenue? What is that end? And by what means? So that helps with how you phrase things. So and then what you said about boundaries, I think a lot of people, they set OKRs, they set priorities, but if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So it becomes our North Star. It becomes the thing that we know that every day we are moving the needle, right? And I think for us, we all need a sense of accomplishment in this season. We need to know we're not just busy for busy sake. And when we work towards something that's actually moving the needle, that's actually moving towards impact. So it's so on so many layers, such a powerful tool. I really encourage people to check out that tool, and we'd love to chat with you if you're interested to learn more about that.
Yeah, I worked for a senior leader, and he had a famous 2-word question that he would ask everyone, which was, so what?
Oh,
It was
absolutely.
question. And I'm just like, I'm trying to come up with the so what answer. But the thing that key results do uniquely in OKRs is that you have to have a number in each one. And that is something that I see time and time again, especially for the talent community, as I look at their LinkedIn and others, is that they fail to qualify or quantify their impact with numbers. And this can be done so easily. Instead of saying, I drove a sales organization, you can say, I oversaw 100 reps with, $3 million of annual revenue. By simply inserting some context, it really, really helps ground those stories. And OKRs are such a beautiful tool. Even if you don't use OKRs, certainly think about how anything you can quantify. Sometimes we use time, sometimes we use growth, sometimes we use revenue, sometimes we use people, sometimes we use open rate, whatever those metrics are, as much as you can kind of like cram in there, I encourage people to do.